The science of sports is one of the most diffuse topics there are. Quantifying all of the factors can be very difficult. And that is for the simple fact that it involves humans, which come in all shapes and sizes and backgrounds, and there are simply too many parameters involved. And due to this variability and diffuseness of this vast topic, rationalizations to suit different agendas as well as confusing cause and effect will be very evident here, either as a means of confirmation bias or to generate traction. And one of those confusions that have been floating around in the world of competitive sports, especially those with a somewhat traditionalistic mindset as commonly evident in combat sports, is the following. Weight training makes you stiff. Now before we even begin, we have to consider the vagueness of such a statement. How do you define weight training to begin with? Are you referring to powerlifting or strongman or Olympic weightlifting? Are you referring to bodybuilding inspired training? Are you referring to partial range of motion exercises or perhaps an emphasis on machine training with a locked movement pattern? As you may notice, there are many entry points to such a statement. So before we discuss this further, let's examine a close cousin to this statement. Muscle mass makes you stiff. This man right here is Dmitry Klokov. At first sight, you might believe he's a bodybuilder, and rightfully so. With a physique like this, he could easily pass as a Mr. Olympia competitor. But no, he's actually an Olympic weightlifter, and quite a good one. 6 Olympic and world level medals, with one of them being gold. Not bad at all. Not only can he throw 200 kilograms above his head with stretched out arms in the bottom position of a squat and stand up with it, but he can also do this. In fact, let's take a look at a bodybuilder as well. This man right here is the 2022 Mr. Olympia, and this is him performing full ass to grass squat. A full ass to grass squat requires above average ankle and hip mobility. Had stiffness or excessive muscle mass been an issue here, well, he wouldn't be able to do it. Are you still not convinced? Okay, here we go with Flex Wheeler here performing the full splits at a bodybuilding competition. This guy right here is a world-class bodybuilder, and I think he has quite some muscle mass. Had this been correlated to stiffness, I don't think he would be able to do the full splits. Anyways, we can go back and forth like this for days on end, but let's not do that. Simply put, muscular hypertrophy simply increases the cross-sectional area of the muscle. And if that is an issue for whatever reason in your sport, say you have to stay within a weight class or whatever reason, it can be controlled with proper dietary measures. It is that simple. Then the adaptations from lifting will remain predominantly neuronal. Now, of course, if you were to compare the flexibility of, say, a bodybuilder to an Olympic weightlifter, the weightlifter would very likely be more flexible. Why? Because the weightlifter has spent a lifetime performing mobility-demanding exercises such as the snatch and the clean and jerk, which is obviously a bit less evident in bodybuilding. The point is that lifting weights is not necessarily a causal factor to stiffness, neither is muscle mass. If you have never had the need to perform a training style that demands the emphasis of flexibility, well, then your current flexibility will remain unchanged. As simple as that. We are what we train for. And of course there is a genetic factor to it as well. Some athletes are in fact more predisposed to stiffness, and this often leads them into confusing cause and effect and attributing their stiffness to strength training or excessive muscle mass when in reality they are just stiff from the start. This is like having bad handwriting and you're blaming that on the pencil or the paper. Luckily, however, like most other attributes in life, things are subject to change. It does not mean that one cannot actively work to improve it. Flexibility is in fact a trainable phenomenon, even for those that are somewhat disadvantaged. I have heard some athletes taking some time away from their sport, most commonly in boxing for instance, say a year or so, due to an injury or whatever the reason, and instead they spend their time on lifting weights. And they complain to me that they don't feel as mobile and agile due to strength training. I always facepalm when I hear this. Could it not be the case that you have been away from your sport for 2 years? Like, if you have done something every day for the past 5 years or so, and then you suddenly stop doing it for 2 years and you return and you're suddenly feeling stiff, is that strength training or is it perhaps your absence? I mean, come on. Anyways, there is overwhelming evidence that static stretching and, ironically, full range resistance training does contribute to flexibility. In fact, this study hinted that full range resistance training is just as beneficial, if not equally effective for flexibility development when compared to static stretching. This study right here, made on 20 sedentary middle-aged women randomly assigned to a lifting group and a control group, showed that strength training with very basic exercises in a circuit training format significantly increased their flexibility. That's it for this video, thanks for watching. If you're interested in programs or coaching, visit my website.